Thank you very much for having me today. My name is Peter Huntoon, and I am going to do my very best to paint a little painting for you. But basically, I want to give you an overall process of what I go through in my daily quest for beauty. I'm humbled to share this gift of art with you, because to me it's a kind of a craft. It's my spiritual practice. It's my daily life, and to have so many people find that compelling or interesting it's really moves me personally. So in turn, I try to do my sincere best to give you in my painting something tangible that's not describable in words. So I think of painting as that bridge between what we all experience, that universal experience, and the tangible that we can see. What I've got here is my plein air setup, which I use to paint outside under intense conditions. And I'm not sure if I like painting more or building stuff to paint with, because honestly, at least an hour a day is spent fiddling around with my tools. I love to try to make this job is not easy, painting. You're juggling a lot of balls, so I think it's my responsibility as an artist to come up with ways to make things easier, and I'm constantly evolving. I wish we had like 2 months together, because I've got so much I want to tell you, and I just can't get it all in, so I better refocus here and go with my plan. So Bill was nice enough to bring this painting in for show and tell, and I'm just going to run you through my process real quick, and then I'm going to get to painting. But this is the end result. This is the byproduct of a process that I am totally committed to. And that process starts by going into Vermont and looking around and seeing what's beautiful. So in this case, I was out looking for something. Actually, I wasn't even looking for something. I was going to a different location up the road that I had seen earlier. And I said, well, let me pull in to use the restroom at the state park before I set up and paint. So I did, and all of a sudden I got that vibe. I said, oh, painting's coming. I see it. And I grabbed my sketchbook, which I always carry, and sat down in my little collapsible stool, and I did this sketch in no more than 10 minutes. And if you look at this sketch that I did there and that painting, that I went back 2 days on location to paint this there at the lake, you'll see that it's pretty darn close. And my point is, in that 10 minutes, I solved all my problems. And when I went to do the painting, I knew exactly where I was going. No, please. So that is how those ideas work. You have to be open to to that input, to that inspiration, because it pops up out of nowhere. So I am like a cat, always on the hunt for the next painting, and I've done it for so long and so focused that it comes fairly naturally now to me. I don't have to work at it. But in the beginning, when, like anything else, you start small. So that was my part. And then, of course, the happy ending of the story is when someone responds to that in a positive way, enough to purchase it, allow me to buy paints. But the good news is now Bill's got something on his wall that hopefully gives you some joy every day. Is that right? Bill offered to bring that, and I thought that was a good story to share. So I'm going to pass this sketch around along with my 2022 sketchbook. I could spend an hour talking about the importance to me personally of this particular process, but here you're going to see raw footage of my mind, just shorthand ideas, inspiration. Some turned into paintings, some didn't. Doesn't matter. It's seeing the inspiration, filtering it through whatever this is, and it's coming out here. And the longer I do this, 30 years now, the more I'm turning the reins of the whole process over to my subconscious. Basically, I feel like I've reached the limit of my mental capacity to remember all this stuff, you know, elements and principles of design and value and color and all those things. Yes, I'm familiar with all those things. I've studied them, but at this point, the best stuff in my work is from the subconscious, where I'm not even present, really. It's just happening. And I step back after 45 minutes like, holy moly, that's not bad. You know, it's like a total surprise. But I'll pass this around. This is my diary, private diary. And take all my paintings, but don't take my sketches. And I go back to these over the years. I'm noticing now, after 30 years, that I'm going back to subjects that I painted 10, 15, 20 years ago. Totally different to me now. And it's really refreshing. And I should give you a fair warning. Everything I say today is just my opinion, and my opinion changes a lot. Like if I say something as an absolute truth about art today, next week I could have a totally different opinion. Yet I've had some rock solid principles I noticed too along the way. So staying open. Before I get into the actual painting, how long do I have? Till 3 o'clock? Yeah, because 3 o'clock. And I won't be offended if you have to leave or anything. What was my point? Yeah, before I get into this, I'm going to let this lead the whole event. Once we get into this, it takes over. I'm going to comment and make a few points along the way, but if I can weave into that commentary any answers to your questions, please raise your hand and give me a question to consider. Anybody, if you have any. Yes?
I'll start. That painting is completely different than the Peter Huntoon paintings that I'm familiar with. So you have two different kind of styles?
That's a good question, good observation. From my perspective, not 100% accurate, but that's no judgment on your assessment. I'm in a constant quest for fusion, integration, what's that word? Not symmetry, synergy, how things are connected. So just in this one small example, I really feel like I'm weaving two different threads together in my work. And those two different threads are representational painting, you know, as it looks to me, how it looks, how it feels. And then what you're thinking of is the more fanciful, splashy color, go with the flow watercolor. Those are the two extremes of the medium, but also abstraction. So all of these things fascinate me. And when I go out to eat, I have surf and turf. I like the two things. And I'm weaving those in different ways. So in this painting, it goes quite a ways over to the representational side. Other paintings might go way over here to the abstract side. But they're both important to my work. It just happens to be my mood, the subject, etc., etc. And a constant vigilant effort to push myself in new directions. I might stop and turn around and say, that wasn't the path, but I'm constantly testing, you know, this could be a gold mine shaft. And I feel like I'm on one right now, and that would take 3 more hours to articulate, for me, myself, to figure that out. But again, I'm turning the reins over to something way bigger than I am, in that I'm letting the art lead me where it wants to go. I was like, I give up, if that makes any sense at all. Yes?
Do you ever just go out and even plein air, let's say plein air, and do you ever just paint what you see without doing the drawings and
Oh, yeah.
planning it ahead? Do you?
Absolutely. A barn, a tree, a farm scene, you know, I don't have to do and often I don't. Some of my best paintings I don't, but you learn the bitter lessons, you know, and one of the lessons I'm continue to learn is I get into the middle of a painting and I'm floundering, and it's like, man, there's no worse place to be. I am efficiency, you know. I want to put that mark down, and the strength of a mark, the beauty of it, is in its succinctness. Just like a poet writes a poem with very few words, but those words, boy, they mean something. That's what I want my marks to make. So I hope that answers the question. So to do anything in an hour and a half, I got to work fast. I got to work big. If there was one fundamental principle that describes my work and my whole interest in it, it would be yin and yang. I love looking at these opposing forces, warm and cool, straight and curved, soft and hard, action, rest, chaos, order, abstraction, realism. All of these opposing forces, that's my sandbox. Those are my toys. And I'm going to do my very best to do that. So I've got a couple of options putting this paint on, and my option 20 years ago, 25 years ago when I did demos, and if you've seen my demos, you've probably seen it, I grab a bunch of paint and I whip it across the canvas. That was really theatrical more than anything. But that was introducing chaos to the process right up front. It's a valid thing, and I could do it now. Or I could swing that pendulum over to the other side and start with order. Drawing would be the way to describe that best. But again, I want to integrate these two somehow into a beautiful way. So I'm going to draw, but at the same time, simultaneously, I'm going to think in abstract relationships, in big shapes. Because of the timing, I want to get a big hunk of shape on here as fast as possible. If I was in my studio and had all the time in the world, I would draw with a small brush a little bit to indicate some important things. People often ask, you know, how long did it take to paint this? I've got at least 15 hours in this painting already. I'm not lying. Going to the place, taking a picture, doing the drawing, getting it ready, in my head, just sitting there. That's another thing. I'm thinking a lot more these days than I used to before I start painting and in between brush strokes. So in essence, it's taking me twice as long to do a painting with half the brush strokes. So I'm not sure you're getting your money's worth.
Are you charging double for your paintings?
Not yet. That's, you know, I haven't changed my prices in 20 years. But that's okay because I'm happy and I can afford paint and people are happy. So, all right. Once I start painting, I'll stop talking so much. They're really two different sets of the head. God, I love this thing. It's, you know, and there's yin and yang. There's the good part about this is it makes a very straight line. The bad part about this is it makes a very straight line. Where to start? Okay, so These are my colors. You can't really see this, and I can't lift it up to show you because I got all my stuff on it. But you'll see it after. It would be fun to, I'll say, I think of myself as a coach of a team. This is my team, these colors. So I've got my starting lineup for sure. I've got ultramarine blue, and I'm going to bring these onto the court now. Ultramarine blue, phthalo green, some type of magenta. Could be alizarin crimson right here. Nice red. I got transparent oxide red, which is kind of like a burnt sienna, only very transparent. And lastly, well, there's 5 players. I got 6 players on my team here. This is Terra Rosa. All right, 7. This is sepia. Sepia is a kind of a workman-like, warm, dark. I have it over here just in case. Because I'm a messy guy, and this is just easier to clean up. And there is some degree of concern over cadmium colors getting into you. You know, I've treated myself much worse in my life. So, but the gloves keep the oil off. Although it's hard because sometimes I'll look down on my hand is covered in paint and I didn't know it. And it's over everything. I'm so nervous, you know, in front of so many people. It's. But the good news is, as soon as my brush hits this canvas, it's like, all right, now I'm okay. I do have to give this one little thought. I'm going to start with transparent only. Later on, bringing in opaque paint. So long lead up to this.
Did you tell us where we are?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Let's talk about that. What is this? It's Virgins. I went up there last week with the intention of painting Virgins. I didn't paint there, but I got some good shots. And I'm almost done with a painting on my easel in my studio of Main Street. It's like my shot of Virgins. And that will be Monday's Day in Vermont. Is anybody familiar with that? For 10 years, every Monday I posted a brand new painting. It's called Day in Vermont. Now it's every 2 weeks. And that makes much more sense. It's taken me longer to paint. So that painting's underway. And I tend to go in little series spurts. I also, on my other little easel, is a small little Virgins Falls painting. So that's underway. So when I said, what do I have to do tomorrow for a demo? Oh, I like this little corner here. And this is actually the opposite direction of what I'm currently painting. It's an ice cream shop. It's got Park Squeeze lemonade here. And all kinds of good stuff. But my job today is just to get this big hunk in and define just a couple of things. And that's where we've got to whittle this down into an essential nugget for me today. Well, I'll say for us today, because I'm utilizing your creative energy here too. What do we want to do? What do we want to say? My failed paintings are always the ones where I didn't have anything worth saying. You know, I look at the painting, it's like, it's still not saying anything, and I go around and around. It's like finally goes into the burn pile, and I've got a pretty good sized burn pile. Those are those bitter lessons that you learn over and over. Lately, what's the lesson I've been learning lately? See, I forgot. There are only 2 things in life, and I forgot what they are. I haven't learned it well enough yet. One thing I have noticed is, okay, I just remembered it. When I'm put a mark down that I think is a mistake. It's like, oh, I got to correct that. Instead of doing that, I accentuate it. And it often works. It's fun. And what was the other one? I forgot again. Oh, instead, I'm altering my approach to when I see something that obviously I need to fix on my painting. My approach has long been, hit it with a sledgehammer. You know, fix it now as hard as I can and fast as I can. Lately, I've been like, you know what? Let's just tickle this just a little bit and see what kind of effect that makes. And that simple shift of approach lately, look at Monday's painting when I post it. That has a lot of what I'm excited about these days. I've got two choices today. I think I'll use both, surf and turf. I have to read this because this is the point of execution. When the paint goes on the surface of the paint, that's when all hell breaks loose. This is my Bible, The Art Spirit by Robert Henry. I read this almost every day, and it's like I've never read it before, and I've got marks next to the paragraph saying, clearly I thought it was important before, but it's like, look at that. But anyway, he talks about the brush stroke. There's one. There are few outsiders who have any dream of the difficulties an artist has to meet in the mere putting on of paint. My goodness. The matter of putting on paint, the power of the brush stroke. Strokes which look like brush strokes and bring us back to paint. I could go, there's pages of this that, there's some funny ones. Strokes that end too soon. Bad strokes. The thing is, the stroke records my current state of mind, for better or for worse. Let's see what it looks like today. I've got a whole mixture of dark transparent paint on here. I just kind of scooped out of all those players I put on my palette, and I've kind of laid them out there. Now, this is a good example of a combination of chaos and order. The order is in my hand and in the width of this particular roller. The paint's not going to go anywhere except that. The chaos is in all this mix of paint on here. I don't know what's on here. There's blue, red, purple, green, etc. The control is in how much pressure I put on this as I put it on the painting. What else can I do to procrastinate? One more second. All right. Shut up and paint. That is a quote, shut up and paint. And it's a great quote because oftentimes you go to art functions and stuff and people talk. Shut up and paint. That's where the work gets done. Goodness gracious, we got a long way to go, don't we? One thing also I've noticed is more than learning at this point for me, the greatest gains in my work are unlearning things. I've got so much stuff up here, you know, just again, letting go, subconscious. But unlearning 20 years of painting with watercolor, shifting to oils, has taken me 10 years, and this is one of the things that I'm excited about right now. Watercolor, 20 years, it's like breathing. Shifting to oils, painting like watercolor. Loose, wet, and sloppy. There's wet into wet. I've been painting wet into slop for a while. That's a big exaggeration, but I'm working much drier now with my paints, more like clay, almost sculpturally. I notice here that I need to loosen up my paint, but instead of using solvent or water, I'm using oil. You have to be a bit of a, I don't want to say chemist, because that's the farthest thing that I am, but a little bit of an alchemist as an artist, because there's all these technical things, and you can get really bogged down. I'm watching the floor because it's a beautiful floor, and it's like, as soon as I get something somewhere, it's going to be everywhere. And but I can fix it if I do something. Man, I just got to get in on this. See, this is the exact moment that you need to be aware of. I'm right at the point, the tipping point between the left brain thinking, analyzing, second guessing myself, and that free place of the right brain where I don't care about anything. And my only focus is right here. This is that bridge. And I'm struggling to get there because I'm trying to talk. There's some red there. Right. I have no problem if you want to get up and move, because I'm going to be stuck here for about 10 minutes doing right here. So if you can't see, I'm sorry, but I can't do. A little bit of drawing. See what kind of decisions I made over here from the real thing. I want just a little bit of slant on this telephone pole. Not so much as what's on there, but I like to have things leaning into the composition. If it makes sense. I always defer to nature. If I'm not sure what decision to make, paint what's there. But I always look and see, should it be altered in some way? But I try not to make stuff up, because that's where I get in trouble. What makes something look authentic, real, part of it is painting something that is real. You can't make up stuff out of your head, or you can to a degree, but it tends to be very generic. When you look at something specific, anything, you'll start to see individual pieces of beauty and poetic light hitting that simple thing on the table. It's all good. If it was in my studio, I would choose opaque paint right now and put this, all right, I'm going to do it. I shouldn't, but I'm going to do it. I don't like to put opaque paint too early, because it'll muddy everything up. But boy, it kind of needs to be one thing at the top. Another thing in the middle. And something even darker on the bottom. Oh, So just that one mark, to me, that's a good mark. It's direct, it's sure, it's, even if it was wrong, I'm going to leave it there, because to correct that, to move it over an inch, oh man, you know, you got this leftover mark. So again, I'm trying to be more deliberate with what I do put down. And if I'm going to put something down that strong, it better be in the right place. So Mr. Stick helps with that. All right, so let's see. What are my main players? If I was a, you know, I've got enough to go on right here in these few simple marks, but I want to line my nest a little bit more safely before I get into real aggressive paint, because I can change anything at this point. And back to you, I keep looking at you, there's something I got to answer. What is it about this? So ice cream is going to be my theme. So anything that I can say about ice cream is going in. Anything that distracts from the painting or ice cream is going out. So with that, okay, I'm going to focus on this ice cream cone hanging like the sign, iconic thing, and I'm going to focus on this sign and the open sign that says, ice cream warms your soul. I can agree with that. So these are my players. This is my whole idea. I've got the strong, let's put it in. Fire hydrant, telephone pole, kind of a background, a very subtle. Bill and I were talking about this earlier. I want to make sure this background stuff gets pushed to the background. So these mountains way in the background are significantly lighter, hazier, cooler, softer, etc., to push those back into the distance. Even something this close, I'm going to do the same thing, exaggerate these trees back there, put you into the distance. It's not a, unlike that, this is not a panorama. This is more of an intimate corner shot. Again, keeping with my theme, trying to whittle that down to the bare essence. So what I'm going to do is, I've got this kind of thing going. The fire hydrant leads to, I'm just going to shut up and paint. Oh, look at, see, I always do that. This is why I have this too. See how that leans? I wanted to do that straight, but for whatever reason, I know all my paintings leading this way. And when I painted watercolor, it didn't matter, because in watercolor you have the matte, and I could take the paper and go, duh, and everybody, so if you take an old watercolor out, it's like, but with the oil, this is a fixed thing. So I have to be pretty, you know, not too wonky. I like a little wonk, you know. But, oh, my point was, I wanted to make that straight, but that didn't happen. And especially windows and doors for me, it's like, I'm breaking this out because I have to go back and fix it later. It's like, you know, everything else is good, and then you got all these things like this. Fixing stuff is not something I enjoy. Look at that. That's about how often, that's about, it's very consistent. Yeah. And those little things add up too. I guess when I say I like a little wonk, also I'm going to choose where to put it. That's a big difference between just accidents. You look at a painting that's out of whack and you know. Way too much commentary. I think I've almost into the right brain. I'm working my way there. At least what I'm talking about makes more sense now to me. Where is that line? Well, I got less than an hour, so I got to hurry up. I'm going to completely change my mind of what I was going to cover this whole thing with paint, with that thing, but now I'm back to drawing. And I think that's the smart move because, trust me. Trusting yourself, it's hard, man. It's, we're so... If I was in my studio, I'd paint this whole fire hydrant right now to done. Then I don't have to come back to it. And I'm only able to do that, honestly, because after 30 years of painting, I have the confidence that no matter what happens, I'll solve it. I've been here so many times, fought my way out of so many dark alleys. I can do it. And that's the one thing that experience.
It's hanging on your ruler right there. There.
Let's see. Yeah. My goodness. When I work outside on location, especially in a area where there's people, I do wear headphones because people come up and ask, "What are you painting?" But to get me at least till I get what this is called a block in. That's what I'm trying to do today, the block in. Just the basic stuff. But too bad the car's there. I'll have to put it in. Anybody can learn to do what I'm doing right now. I'm dead serious. I'm not kidding. I've dedicated a good part of my life to learning how to do this, but this part, at least, is measurement. That's all it is. yeah, there's some decision making. The art part, the fluffy stuff, the stuff I don't understand, but I just roll with and grateful for, that is something else. But this is, anybody can learn this. It's practice, it's measurement, it's how many times have I looked at something and translated it into something else? Thousands, thousands and thousands. And still I'm not satisfied. I'm trying to find that most direct, succinct, poetic, elegant, tasteful, true, honest, sincere nugget that I can eke out of this. You know, it isn't, is it? But there's something magical that happens with that sincerity on my part, which in my best work is there. It happens. You can taste it in the end. I can't understand that part. And it's right about here, for me personally, where this is totally under control now. Hi, Sue. Totally under control. So I just have to keep moving forward. One stroke leads to another. So this goes there, and that goes there, and there. All right, my ice cream cone, here comes the star of the show. This grid that I had on there, I don't know if you noticed it. It's just one way, a tool of measurement to transfer this. You can use the rule of thirds, you can use a grid with however many squares you want, but it's simply a way of taking, all right, the squeeze sign is in between, you know, these two marks. All right, now, this wonderful I've been looking for more curves in my work lately, or not turning them into automatic straights at least, finding them where they are. I guess you could say that drawing is probably non-negotiable for a representational painter. And I love it. And it never gets easy, but the more you practice, of course, I'm looking for perspective lines now. All right. There. That's my, well, let's say my vanishing point. Let's say this light post. And if that's one light post, that's the next one. Again, I play, all of this to me, the art, it's a game. Life is a game. Gamify it, you know, okay, how far can I go holding the brush without using my crutch? You know, how steady can I be? It's just a game. So now I got a couple of street lamps. Let's go ahead and just remind myself that those are there with a little yellow. forgot what this is. All right. Oh, that's a house, I think. Let's call that a chimney. That's there. There. New tool. I actually stuck with that other one too long. Usually, I try to switch up my tools quite a bit. Otherwise, like, oh man, he really likes that roller, doesn't he? You know, remember the salt with the watercolors? Like, man, take it easy with the salt. Take it easy with the roller. You can overdo it with any tool or method or technique. It's easy to get. And just when it's like, oh man, this is perfect, that's when it's time to change, unfortunately. You know what I mean? You know, it's like everything's going perfect, but till it's not. All right, let's see. I guess we keep drawing. All right, ice cream goes here, put a shadow underneath that. Perspective. The best part comes when I just go on autopilot. That's that subconscious in them. I just gotta go ahead and do that. It's going to take me about 2 minutes to do this, but it's worth it. I'm going to do this open sign, and I was going to put a brush stroke on there, but I can do better, and I'll explain why once I do it. Instead of blue, one brush stroke, I'll give you something a little bit more interesting. The price just went up on this painting. You see how simple one little thing is in context. Everything is in relationship to everything else. And now, you know, I'm committed to that. Everything from here on has to relate to that somehow. And you can see how quickly you can get into deep water if you're not careful. So, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, you have to, you put a mark down, assess it, deal with it. If it's not exactly right, and more often than not, it's not exactly right. But I try to retain the best of it. Just get rid of what I have to. So I've got to clean up the bottom of this sign. So wax on, wax off. I don't mind a hard edge right there. This is a big part of my operation here, so that hard edge gets your attention. You know, these become, that was the star of the show earlier, now that kind of gets integrated, fused, all those things. I think, oh, I got to draw my ice cream cone, then I'll fill it all in with this thing. I go through stages, you know, it's like, oh, fan brushes, man, they're the greatest thing. And I'll buy like 10 of them. And then the next week it's like, nah, you know, I kind of like these other ones better. Again, a game. So what am I doing? Ice cream cone. In my studio, and I've painted in a lot of studios over the years, but my studio right now is pretty awesome. It's about, it might be this long. So I sit in my couch there, and I look at my easel from that distance, and that's doing me a lot of good. Seeing what looks good at a distance, and not getting in here like this, you know. Ice cream cone. This line, there, part of my grid is going right down there, so I can, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's, you know, everything is right down this line. I just have to follow it. I don't even have to know what it is or think about ice cream or think about anything. There's this mark. I used cobalt violet right there because I was thinking about raspberry smooth or creamy, black raspberry smoothie. Those are the things that are in that right brain that now they start creeping in, and they'll pay dividends if I allow them to creep in. Those personal affections and there's their 2-scooper. The cone here is black. I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do this. Now there's a window here, and that's right behind there. So this is one of those things where I'm going to adjust that just a little bit. That's not bad, but the edge of that window is just a little too close to that edge, so I'll solve that. You know, those little things that just, you don't want a confluence. I love confluence. In fact, that could be one of my favorite themes is confluence. Everything, a big interesting pattern of shapes mingling, all coming together in one place. That's powerful to me, and I see it more and more anywhere I look. I wonder if I can use. That's an excellent question. That is where the least control is. I'm painting like a singer sings from his toes. I'm kind of dancing up here, and my best work is when you're in that, the universe is just kind of doing its thing, and any artist, chef, writer in their zone that they've tried to polish their acts for all those years, that's when it comes flooding back. And you know, I couldn't do this years ago. That confluence I'm excited about because I've worked on a lot of threads over the years. I'm a pretty dedicated disciple of learning. I love it. And I've followed a lot of paths. and I've gathered a lot of tools. And as I turn 60 this year, not that that means anything, but in my mind, all right, I've got 10 solid years of doing my best work, and everything seems to be coalescing at the right time. And that's a beautiful thing. I just hope I can do it justice, that feeling. It's basically humble acknowledgement of the universes. Here's a quote, G.K. Chesterton. The object of the spiritual and artistic life at the back of our brains is a forgotten blaze or burst of astonishment at our own existence. The object of the spiritual and artistic life is to dig for that submerged sunrise of wonder. It's wonder. I can't believe this. Look at that beautiful sky. Look at that. How can I translate that and share it with others? It's sensing that sense of wonder like the little kid that we were, and we had that purity, fascination. Good. Where am I? I should probably use my stick, but I'm not going to put that picket fence. There's a picket fence in the window over here. Not going to put that there. Confusing. Look, you can read it in the photograph, but for me to paint a picket fence in a window of a store, what the heck is that? Is that a fence over there? So keep it simple is a good thing. All right, just a few little red banisters and then I'm ready to go. This is where I want that perspective. Oh, see, I got a new straight edge and the blue's getting the peanut butter's in the chocolate, chocolate's in the peanut butter. That's all right. Where are we? Give me a point. Give me one. I'm going to make up a whole bunch of stuff that this car is hiding. I'm going to pretend that there's some kind of thing here. I'll figure it out. All right, everything's there, isn't it? I got a new tool. I've never done this before. All right. New tool. Brush. First brush. That's another thing. I've been trying to use my brushes, even though I have a fortune in them. I'd be ashamed to show my brush drawer. I would. I'm trying to use them as least amount as possible. Mainly because I'm lazy and I don't want to clean them. Everything I say is kind of a half joke, but you know, I do want to be economical. There is definitely beauty in economy. Now, here I am back to this. Let me take a quick look at this and get my head straight for the last half hour. I don't want to go off in too many directions, but this is the foundation. It's the structural connective tissue of the whole thing. So the rest is just vinyl siding, kind of, almost. You know, it's the color. This was the most important part. My work is done. I can hand this to my apprentice now. This honestly, this is where it's at. All the strength, all the power, all the knowledge, all the, you know, haranguing is there already. My job now is not to destroy it, just accentuate it.
What inspired you to do that scene in the first place?
Because I was kind of on a run with Virgins for no specific reason. So one day I woke up a couple weeks ago, Virgins. Drove to Virgins, got a bunch of photos, came back. This is my third Virgins painting, probably my last for a while. Because now I was like, Montpelier Berry, I think, might be my next.
How long did you spend in Virgins looking at things before you started taking pictures? Or did you just take pictures?
Everyone's different. In this case, the first thing I saw was a little chocolate store. And I went in there and I bought my wife 12 chocolates. My wife, right? I ate most of them. But it had a beautiful little blue, about this color, blue box, like a Chinese carryout. So I was walking around with my camera in one hand and this blue box in the other. And literally I snapped all these pictures with that blue box in my hand. An hour I was there, tops. I had my gear. I was prepared to paint, but the stars and the moon, the dust, the wind was a little more. You know, my criteria for when I paint outside now continues to evolve with my age. I used to do it all and be the guy out there under all conditions, but now I like my fingers. So, but then I came home. I download all those photos from that day, and I just start looking at them. There's a composition I might find worthy. I sit down, I do a sketch. Oh yeah, that's going to be a good painting. That's that momentum, that enthusiasm. It's a gradual build. So by the time I put that first stroke on, I've got a pretty good chance of success. Again, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to get in the middle of this thing 2 hours. I don't paint just to exercise my arm. I paint to make a statement. I have something to say, something that moved me, and I want to communicate that effectively as possible. My goodness, let's just get a new pile of paint here and go for it. Actually, I'm going to invite all the friends to the party here. So with this foundation, I can get pretty reckless. The key is, you know, maybe back to that question earlier about, you know, how representational am I going to go? I could take this either way. I could take it right down to, you know, photorealism, which I'd never go that far, personally. Nothing wrong with it, but it's just not for me. Or all the way to completely abstract, where the only thing that you could make out is maybe the ice cream cone. So there are so many options. In that regard, and in color choices, I largely let that happen spontaneously without too much thought about it. People say, and someone said that to me once that, oh, you changed your style. I don't even know if I have a style. It's just my handwriting. It's what comes out. I don't know. And, you know, the more you try to define it, describe it, it pigeonholes you. It locks you in. You know what? I'm going to go with sepia just as a mother color. I'm going to add a little bit of, I want a warm kind of dominance. Oh man, this is going to be thrilling because I don't know what's going to happen. This is hot red on this. But let's do it. No, that's orange over there. See, I can go over there. Mary Fran, will you keep an eye on this floor? If I happen to drop something, tell me. Because, you know, if I step on oil paint, it won't be good. Yeah. Just keep an eye. I think you're good. But. All right. I told you to turn off your phone. Oh, it's in my pocket. Spam. Atlanta, Georgia. Come on, man. All right. Give me some color. Give me some color. I couldn't do that again in a million years. And it took all those hours of explaining and all those years of learning to make that mark right there. Honest. It's got a good relationship. Is this the coolest? That's my kit. Wax on, wax off. Yeah. Is there any questions?
Are you mentally exhausted after a day of painting?
In a good way. Yeah, it's there's no better day's work for me. If I go a couple days without painting, I'm getting kind of ornery. Yeah, it's my work for sure. But yeah, this is, I'll be run out dry or run out after this presentation. Yeah. But I paint not quite this intensely. Your energy is absolutely in this, and it's in me. So thank you. It's a group effort, really.
You should be tired of doing two things at once. Yakking to us and concentrating on the painting.
I've got the same conversation going in my head at my studio, really. I'm just kind of blurting out whatever comes in my head. In my studio, I would slow down. I've got everything under control. I would probably section this off and build it up, one section at a time. Like I said, I would pay a lot more attention to that hydrant and get that just right before moving on. But, this is something else.
It sounds like you're not happy if you're not painting. Do you ever just take a week off? Or is that that's not comfortable?
We've learned, my wife and I have learned, she's an artist too, so that's the only way it works. I'm pretty, just short of obsessed, yeah. In a good way. I try to be balanced. You're seeing me at my best. I can be miserable, I can be tired, I can be depressed, all that stuff. But when I get into this, when I start talking about art, I get excited and animated, and the same happens in the studio. I might not feel like painting, but I go out there, I pick up the brush, put a few marks on. One thing always leads to another. What do I paint? Repeating patterns of nature. Or I could simplify that further, repeating patterns. What I did here, this gradation, I'm going to do the same thing in that cone, only a different color. If I can keep doing that throughout this, one more way to unify that thing. And not everybody's going to notice it, but somebody will. And say, oh, wow, look at that. It's a great way to entertain the eye. And that's what our job is as artists. I'm a visual entertainer. Somebody looks at my painting, I want them to be, sure, moved to tears and all those things, but just generally entertained. Not much worse than boring. All right, so my choice is, okay, look to nature, what's there? I can't see anything. The photo has darkened that so much, I don't know what color that is. So that's out, can't go by that. All right, I want the dark up underneath the scoop in the shadow. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did here, dark to light. With this is red. What color is a cone? Kind of a biscotti. Oh, a little bit too much cone here. That wasn't quite enough oomph up top there, so I'll hit that with a secondary. Everybody happy with that?
Yes. Straight edge thing that you just used to put the paint on.
Excuse me?
No, before that. The straight edge.
Yeah, the palette knife.
Oh, okay.
I mixed up a sufficient quantity of paint on my palette so it had this same, very subtle. If I was to do it over again, I'd spend more time and get it a little bit more. And I could cover that again. But the more time you cover, I give myself 2 or 3 coverings before it's like, all right, now it's just work to death. There is a point in paintings where I'll just say, I could turn this into a good painting, but there's no way it's ever going to be great. It goes into the bin. I'd rather start over with the possibility of great rather than trying to limp along and, you know, somebody will buy this thing. Nah. "15 minutes. I got a lot to cover, don't I? Let's see. Okay, this yellow, this is going to be wonderful, and I do want to do that. So I might run over by 5 or 10 minutes because what I'm going to do now, let's really define it. I'm going to kind of cover everything with a tone so you can really see the values. And then I'm going to switch to opaque paint and cover this right here with an opaque warm wall color. And I think between the transparent form and that opaque, you'll see where this is going to go. We will see.
Window in first?
This one?
The one behind the cone.
I'm going to ignore that for now. Yeah.
Artist license.
At some point, there'll be the right time where it makes sense for me to put it in. Yeah, so I really have, excuse me?
You will ignore the car.
Yeah. Well, it's not paint. It's just no, it's solvent, I think, or it could be medium. Yeah. Uh-oh. That's going to cost a lot of paint. Actually, I have a bunch of slop on my palette from last night's session, so I actually could use some of that. Come on. I don't have to say too much more about the tree than that.
It's down there, buddy.
Thank you. This right here, what I'm thinking in my head is like, this is oil now, as opposed to watercolor. Even last year, my palette would be all solvent, liquid, and the marks would be running all over. Now there's more control because it's pastier in the brush. Simple, I mean, any beginning oil student would know that, but it took me 10 years to suppress the watercolor habit of throwing more and more water at it. And still, I'm still but after the 10 years, pushing that slop around, perhaps, if I look at the silver lining, all that struggle. Now when I can load a paintbrush and put the mark on and it actually behaves the way I would hope it would, it's like, man, this is like a breath of fresh air. That's what I'm excited about, honestly. Because now I've got another 10 years to figure that out. It's another whole game. Sure.
I want to thank you all for coming. This is our 20th year that we've been giving these lectures, where we have talented people giving out the lectures. I just want to remind you all that next week, you guys are going to be the artists. We're going to have Mary Fran is going to talk, and she's going to give demonstrations about how we are going to draw art to relax our minds. Again, thank you all for coming. I'm not going to be kicking anybody out, because as long as Peter here's painting, I'm probably going to be sitting here watching. Yes. Thank you all.
Oh, that's cool.
No pressure, no pressure.
All right, let's make a plan. I'm going to paint till 4 o'clock. Stay or go as you please, but I know I've got an hour of, and right now I couldn't recapture this state of mind that I'm in, where I am with this painting. Sure, I get back there, but a minute right now is worth 2 hours later on.
Peter?
Yes.
Did you want, are these for just display, or did you want, are they for sale?
They're for sale, $45 each. Those are just a few of my selection I took out of my print bins in my studio. These days I'm telling people, just come to my studio, open by appointment, if you would like a print, but I'm happy to sell you one today.
I'll name that table if anybody wants to write a check today.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And again, thanks for having me today. It's a humbling experience. All right. So my plan with that, yeah. So I'm going to continue to try to block this in with just some very broad marks so it's all kind of reading as one big shape on here, because right now we're not sure what's going on here. This can all be left for now. I'm going to regroup here. I'm falling apart. Excuse me?
Do the sky last?
In this case, I will. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. My really only consideration is how am I going to integrate the sky in the foreground? And you know, once I have all these edges established, where am I going to direct the eye? And then when I paint the sky, I'll already know what to be doing with the subtleties. It's all going to be light, but there'll be lots of variation within that light. And how I distribute those things will depend on what I do here. Another, you know, I like, again, yin and yang, back and forth. I like to do a little sky, then a little foreground. I do that a lot. But in this case, I've got so much work to do down here, I don't need to be distracted with the sky, and that's simple, relatively speaking. And I'm the guy who said I'm trying not to use as many brushes. What was that, 15 minutes?
Back up from your burn pile and saw something new in it, or do you just see the mistakes that you didn't like?
I don't see mistakes. You get to the point where success and failure are met with the same degree of nonchalance. You know, the process is where I'm, you know, the moment that mark is hitting that canvas, that's where I am. So those, yes, again, I could pull those out and probably 50% of them could be good paintings, but I don't want to invest my soul into that. That's it. I have control of where my soul goes, and I want something great. No,
So
not.
that's what I'm saying. When it's become burn for you, it's burned. It's done. It's never comes back up, and maybe you saw something that you didn't see in it before, and it could be great. Like this.
It might have happened a handful of times, but I have stacks of panels that I would call them dead because I've overworked them. Remember I said 2 or 3 goes at a certain area, but when I've been floundering, here's a great quote from Robert Henry's book. He said, with motive, you know what you want to do. With motive, you will become clairvoyant of means, will seize and command them. Without motive, you will wobble about. It's when I didn't have a real strong motive, I was wobbling about, packed on too much heavy paint, and it's dead. To bring that back to life, not worth it. In that judgment, the judgment of good and bad, it's more a pass or fail. Yeah. William, check your mic cord for paint when I give it back to you.
Glad to hear you about your new enterprise. Good for you. Okay.
That's not special. It's time to put the window in. Okay, we're out of here. I'm gonna put this chunk right in here.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna have to vacate the premises. Well, you know, when you do artwork, you gotta roll with the punches, you know? This is how, if you had a little camera in my studio, that's pretty much the way I'm working. If it looks like fun, it is. Like Bill said earlier, it's kind of exhausting, but I'm getting there. The last thing I'll do is just put in this big chunk of light value so you can see the vibration between opaque, which is the thick white opaque paint of oil, versus this is a nice transparent area. It's a value, it's all connected, yet you can kind of see through it. That's watercolor at its best. And oil at its best is the opaque. So when you put them next to each other, it's really, really nice. So I'll put in a big gob, and I'll continue to, you know, put these chunks of color in. But I think this piece of light right here by the ice cream cone will be.
That's what we're waiting for, Peter. We're waiting for you to do that spot.
This spot?
Yeah.
All right, I gotta make up a nice.
Your arms ever get tired?
I don't think about it as I'm doing it. Later on,
And you have to hold them still.
yeah, it's like my whole being is focused into that one mark.